The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian shares advanced Thursday, tracking Wall Street's record highs despite the ongoing U.S. government shutdown. All major Asian markets trade higher, led by South Korea's Kospi, up nearly 3%. In currencies, the U.S. dollar slips against the South Korean won, while holding steady against the Hong Kong and Singapore dollars. But the greenback strengthens against the rest of the region's majors. In commodities, gold edges up 0.1%, while oil prices trade mixed. Earlier, gold rose over 1%, hitting a record high as the U.S. shutdown and a weak jobs data lift a safe haven rush. In crypto, Bitcoin and Ethereum both gain nearly 1%. The Gabriela Women's Party slams business process outsourcing companies in Cebu for allegedly forcing employees to return to work just a day after a 6.9 magnitude earthquake hit the province. House Assistant Minority Leader and Gabriela Representative Sara Elago says the incident highlights the weak enforcement of the Occupational Safety and Health Law. Reports show the quake disrupted operations in BPO hubs in Lapu-Lapu City and nearby areas, leaving employees and their families distressed. The BPO Industry Employees Network in Cebu has filed a sweeping complaint before the Labor Department in Region 7 against 30 outsourcing companies over the incident. President Bongbong Marcos vows to provide aid for families affected by the deadly 6.9 magnitude quake in northern Cebu. Less than 48 hours after the powerful tremor, many residents, especially near the epicenter, have to contend with scant basic utilities. Let's get the latest from Andrea Salve. She joins us now on the line from Bogo. Andrea, go ahead.
My collapsed homes, crumbled churches, thousands of displaced families, no electricity or water, and no less than 70 people confirmed dead. These are the urgent matters that President Bongbong Marcos must address after a magnitude 6.9 earthquake struck northern Cebu. During his visit to the ground zero of the September 31 earthquake, he announced that the office of the president would donate financial aid to the entire province of Cebu, including affected cities and municipalities. A total of 180 million pesos from the OP's funds will be allocated to support the recovery efforts of local governments. 10,000 pesos will also be given to each family affected by the quake. The president was joined in Bugo City by some of his cabinet secretaries. Energy Secretary Sharon Garin promised that electricity would be restored within the day. Water services, on the other hand, will be worked on to return as soon as possible. Almost 2 days after the devastating quake, many residents of Bugo City still choose to stay and sleep outside. This is because their homes were destroyed or damaged, and they're still afraid to return indoors. However, the president assures that they are expediting plans to provide temporary homes for the victims. Back to you, Mai.
Andrea, tell us about the water situation. Some areas, I think, have water already, pero it's not potable, as I understand it. Is that correct?
Tama ka, Mai. Although water supply has been restored in several areas, the water is reportedly dirty and still not usable. So yung sa kuryente naman, there remains to be no electricity here in Bugo City. And in fact, sa mga oras na to, nakadepende rin kami sa isang private establishment na may generator set. Back to you, Mai.
Andrea, very quickly tell us about if there are still search and retrieval operations ongoing.
Mai, that is something we have to confirm with the authorities kasi wala na raw lahat daw ng nalistang missing are already accounted for. Kaya yan ang kukumpirmahin natin kung matitigil na rin ang search and rescue operations dahil accounted for na ang lahat ng nalistang missing.
And as I understand it, yung death toll kaninang tanghali Nasa 72 or is it 74? Can you clarify that?
Yes, Mai, according to the last update from NDRRMC, nasa 72 yung death toll dito sa Northern City, Mai.
All right, thank you for the update. Andrea Salve there from Bogos City. Millennial Bilyonaryo and Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste's plan to take over the sugar firm Roxas Holdings Incorporated has hit a speed bump. The sugar company confirms that there is no definitive agreement on the 5 billion peso deal. Leviste's firm Countryside Investments Holdings first announced the ambitious takeover in May 2024. He was aiming for a 71.6% stake in the debt-ridden sugar giant from the First Pacific Group of Bilyonaryo Manuel Pangilinan. There is no word yet as to when negotiations will resume. He is still not safe. The Sandiganbayan has allowed the graft trial of Senator Jinggoy Estrada to proceed. This is in connection with the Priority Development Assistance Fund or PDAF scam. This after affirming its decision to deny the demurrer to evidence filed by the senator's camp. The anti-graft court asserts Estrada's acquittal in a related plunder case does not automatically dismiss the graft cases. The court clarified that double jeopardy does not apply when the elements of the charges differ. The defense may present its evidence starting October 2nd. Deputy Majority Leader Risa Hontiveros questions the nationality of Johnson C. He's the son of mining tycoon Joseph C., who has been detained by the Immigration Bureau also over issues on his Filipino citizenship. In a privileged speech on Wednesday, Hontiveros revealed that Johnson C., also known as Johnson Kai Chen, has a Filipino and a Chinese passport and 2 birth certificates.
Sa makatuwid, Johnson Kai Chen or Johnson C. has 2 passports, isang Chinese at isang Filipino, and 2 birth certificates. Aba, dinaig pa niya si Alice Guo.
The elder C is still detained despite an order from the appellate court for his release. The National Bureau of Investigation files 2 separate cases against dismissed Bamban Mayor Alice Guo and her family for allegedly establishing businesses and acquiring properties in Maynilad, Bulacan. The NBI says it lodged 30 counts of falsification of public documents involving articles of incorporation, a secretary certificate, and a 2021 general information sheet. It also filed 30 counts of simulation of minimum capital stock under the anti-dummy law and 4 counts of falsification over applications for business and building permits. The NBI adds that Guo, also known as Guo Waping, faces 6 additional counts of falsification in connection with a deed of sale and documentary stamp. Guo is currently detained at the Pasig City Jail on separate charges including money laundering, qualified human trafficking, and graft, among others, over her alleged ties to illegal gaming hubs in her town. We're taking a short break. More stories are up next. You're watching Business Brief. You're back on Business Brief. Ayala's Mobility Solutions arm, AC Mobility, and Honda Cars Philippines announced the transition of their dealer operations starting January 1st. In its disclosure, the company says all Honda dealerships operated by AC Mobility through Iconic Dealership Incorporated will be turned over to new dealer principals. The move ends a 35-year partnership that began with Honda Cars Makati in 1990. To date, AC Mobility operated Honda outlets have sold over 220,000 vehicles. The transition covers Honda cars Makati, Pasig, Shaw, Bacoor, Cebu, Mandaue, Iloilo, Negros, and Cagayan de Oro. AC Mobility will run these outlets until December 31, after which full sales and after-sales services will be handled by the new dealers. CEO Jaime Alfonso Zobel de Ayala says the move allows AC Mobility to optimize its portfolio and focus on new growth areas, including electrification and sustainable mobility. Maynilad Water Services slashes the maximum price for its initial public offering to 15 pesos per share, cutting its valuation from 45.8 billion pesos to 34.3 billion. President Ramoncito Fernandez says the move follows commitments from the International Finance Corporation and the Asian Development Bank, which pledged up to $245 million at that price. Maynilad, owned by Metro Pacific, DMCI, and Japan's Marubeni, will set its final offer price on October 20. The offer period runs October 23 to 29, with listing on the PSE main board expected by November 7 under the ticker MYNLD. This is the second time Maynilad has reset its timeline to give investors more time to assess its business.
I'm very hopeful for Maynilad. We believe in the stock, and I think it will be a very good yield. It's a utility anyway, so it will have constant dividends, and parang nakakatawa, Tagalog, it's umaagos nga yung tubig, so it will just continue, dividends will continue to go to investors, it will continue to grow. So while it might be the last IPO for the year, at least it's very good because it's large, but it shows that there's still interest.
Holding firm A. Soriano Corporation, or ANSCOR, sells its 22% stake in the Bistro Group to the Cheng family for 1.91 billion pesos. In a disclosure, ANSCOR says it sold its shares in TBG Food Holdings to Inoza Business Holdings, a newly formed company affiliated with Progeny Global Holdings. Progeny, owned by the Cheng family, also owns Bounty Fresh, Chooks To Go, and Uling Roasters. ANSCOR says the deal represents value realization of its investment in TBG. Oriental Petroleum and Mineral Corporation buys back part of its 200 million peso program. In a disclosure, the board approved the share buyback last June, covering both Class A and Class B common shares. Former Senate President Francis Cheese Escudero writes to the Commission on Elections expressing willingness to be investigated over reports he accepted 30 million pesos in campaign donations from a contractor in 2022. COMELEC Chairman George Garcia says Escudero confirms the donation but denies he is being singled out. Garcia has inhibited himself from the case, pointing out he once served as Escudero's election lawyer when the senator ran for vice president in 2016. The poll body is also looking into other officials named in the PCIJ report, including President Marcos and Vice President Sara Duterte. We're taking another breather, a look at how Philippine shares did today when we return. Stay tuned. Day one of the U.S. government shutdown after a deadlocked Congress failed to reach a deal on funding, triggering the country's 15th shutdown since 1981 and the first in 7 years, and is poised to cost $400 million a day. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers are furloughed, while troops and Border Patrol agents are ordered to work without pay. Democrats blame Republicans for refusing to restore enhanced Obamacare subsidies. President Donald Trump has not announced any immediate job cuts, though the White House warned layoffs could follow if the shutdown drags on. With no deal in sight, millions of Americans are bracing for disruptions that could last weeks. Israeli forces intercept an international flotilla attempting to deliver medicine and food to Gaza. Aid organizers say the fleet was illegally stopped in international waters. They claim signals were jammed before boarding began, cutting off communications between vessels. The global flotilla consists of more than 40 civilian boats, carrying about 500 parliamentarians, lawyers, and activists, including Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg. Israel's actions trigger protests in various parts of the globe. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered outside the Israeli consulate in Turkey's capital, Istanbul. They urged the Turkish government to take stronger measures in defense of the flotilla. In a separate demonstration, protesters gathered outside the U.S. Embassy in Ankara, expressing their support for Palestinians in Gaza. In Buenos Aires, protesters demand the release of activists on board the flotilla detained by Israeli forces. They call the interception of Israeli forces a criminal attack and a violation of international law. Philippine shares rise for the second straight day. The PSEI gains 0.2% to close 60.39. Among the sectoral indices, only property is in the red, with mining and oil rising the most at over 2%. Decliners outnumber advancers 95 to 89, with value turnover reaching 5.6 billion pesos. The day's most active stocks are mixed, with SM Investments rising the most at over 2%. SM Prime falls the most at more than 2%. On currencies, the peso is trading at 58.11 against the US dollar, up from the previous close of 58.12. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business. Only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. See you then.